Okay, so the recording has begun. So I'll share my screen. It's already shared. Okay, guys, welcome to another session in ANZ D365 FinOps group. We will start with a quick introduction of the group and then I will hand it over to Nitesh. So we have been collaborating with the Dynamics community in ANZ region for last almost a year, and where is it gone? And this group ANZ D365 FinOps team is basically uh, was launched with a vision to bring all the ANZ professionals of Dynamics 365 on a common platform so that people can collaborate and share their knowledge and grow together. We are available on LinkedIn, Meetup, and YouTube, so please follow us there. Would like to thank all the volunteers, speaker, and attendees of this group. Without you, this event will not be having so much good success rate, and everyone is joining. So thank you everyone for taking out your time. We have some exciting events lined up after this event in coming weeks on advanced warehousing, revenue recognition, and our dear friend Faisal will share how to become MVP. He will share some tips and tricks and experience from his journey. Today, what we are going to cover is how business events are empowering Power Apps in some of the real-time case studies. So Nitesh Jain, who is a senior technical architect based in Sydney, will show us how they have leveraged business events to solve some of their customers' real-time problems. And without taking much time, I'll hand it over to Nitesh from here. So Nitesh, the floor is all your mate. Take it, mate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachit. And thank you everyone for joining our today's session. Today we're going to be discussing that how business events can add value to our Power App. Let me share my screen on sharing. Yeah. All right, so that's me. I'm currently working as a senior technical consultant with Aristocrat Technologies. I have more than 10 plus years of experience with finance and operation, and I'm based out of Sydney. So here on this slide, I have put on the agenda for our today's discussion. We're going to be seeing how we can leverage business events for adding value to our Power Apps, how we can create and send part requests to various departments for approval. This feature is developed on top of Power Platform. Then we're going to be seeing how business value got created out of these features. Then we're going to be discussing about some technical aspects behind developing the notifications and the part requests. Then later on, we're going to be doing a quick demonstration. And then I'm going to be discussing about the issues that we encountered during the app development. So prior to the development of these features in our app, field technicians have to log on to the finance and operation, apply different sort of filters to identify which return orders are assigned on their name, which return orders are approaching the due date, and which have passed the due dates. So they have to log on to finance and operation to do all such activities. But by the development of this feature in our app, we're going to be notifying them that there has been a return order assigned on the name. This particular return order is approaching the due date and it needs to be addressed or it has passed the due date. So all these sort of notifications, we're going to be sending them. These are the tap notifications. So when they're going to tap on these notifications, it's going to directly take them onto the return orders. And then there they can do all the needfuls. Apart from this, I'm going to be showcasing a shopping cart of an experience that we have developed in our application. So currently, field technicians have to fill out a SharePoint form to submit the part request. So if at all they are running short of any part in their van, they need to fill out the SharePoint form and then they need to send it out to the various department for approval and then they receive the part for their van. So we have automated this particular feature in our application. So in our application, they can just create a part request header. Then they have the ability to select different type of items, which And I mean, like, we have also provided them the ability to search the part which are coming from the finance and operations. So they can search out the parts, they can add all different type of parts, and then they can submit that part request directly onto the relevant departments. So we have a kind of a email sending metrics that we have defined onto the SharePoint. So what do we do at runtime? We query with all different sort of parameters to identify which department this part request should be going to. So in order to develop the TAP notifications, we have leveraged business events. We have leveraged the out of the box business events provided by finance and operation. Like we have leveraged change based alerts, and we have leveraged due date alerts to send out the notifications. Um, I mean, like, all the events, all the events are listed in the system under the system administration module, which I'm going to be showing later on. The business events provides us with the ability to define some sort of a setup on, like, how many number of subscribers can we have for a particular business event. So this is how my flow looks like whenever I'm generating the alert for whenever there is a change in the sales responsible. So what happens currently, the return orders get created in the system with no sales responsible on it. Then there is a business user who assigns field technicians onto the return order. And that is when we want to send out the notifications to the field technicians so that they can take relevant action on that. Apart from that, we also have some sort of escalation path defined, which is, I think, here on the due alerts. So this is how our due date alert looks like. So what happens? The way we have configured it in finance and operation, we have configured two different type of alerts. One is for the return orders which are due in the next 4 days, and one for the alerts which have passed the due date, like which were due yesterday. So we send out these two different type of alerts in case of due dates. We have also defined a kind of an escalation path here, wherein the return orders have passed the due date. So what we are doing, we are getting we are getting out the email address from the Azure Active Directory and sending out the email and copying the manager as well in the email, along with sending the notifications. So this is how the notification would look like when it comes onto their screen. And when they're going to tap on the notification, it is going to directly navigate them to that particular return order, and then they can take the relevant action from there. All right. So key challenges I'm going to be discussing later on. So let me just pardon me, my dev machine is slightly slower today. All right. So let me pick up the one which is assigned on my name. So as you see, on this particular return order, sales responsible is on my name. Let me go down and edit this particular return order. So now we can see this particular return order is due in next 4 days. Just a moment. Yep, that's saved. Let's close this down. So then we're going to be having our batch jobs for the due date and the change based alerts executing on recurrence, not at least on my VM. So we can set it up that way. We can have our change base and due date alerts batches executing on recurrence so that they can read out all the changes happening in the system. So let me run the due date alert batch. And just having said that, I will show you. Let me just run this through. Stuff. So now we can see that it has identified all the alerts which are supposed to be there in the system. And then we can also configure one more batch to execute on recurrence to send all these notifications to Power Automate. So we have business events menu listed under system administration. And there is a business events parameter menu. So this is the place where we can specify like number of endpoints that can subscribe to our business event. And there is also a batch listed down here, which we need to run to send out these notifications to Power Automate. So the way we can configure this in production is like we can configure all these batches to execute on recurrence so that we don't need to come down here and execute it manually. All right, so this is completed. One more thing that I would like to bring to your notice is whenever we are configuring the alerts, there is a checkbox that we need to make sure is ticked so that the alerts get sent out externally. All right, so here in the manage alerts, let me just quickly show you guys the checkbox that we need to make sure is ticked so that these alerts get sent out to the Power Automate. So this is the checkbox which is responsible for sending all these alerts externally. And then we can retrieve all these alerts in the Power Automate and we can do whatever we want. We leverage these notifications for sending out the tap notifications to the Power App that we have created for field technicians. So let me just show. I have received all the notifications on my mobile. So there you go. All these are the notifications which have come. There is one for the overdue. There is one which is due in 4 days. So let me just open the first one. All right. Or let me open this middle one first of all. So it's going to directly navigate us to that particular return order. For some reason, my system is slow. It doesn't usually take so long. Yeah. So there you go. So that is how it looks like. It's going to directly navigate you to the return order. So the challenging part was to directly so challenging part was definitely the part wherein we were supposed to navigate the user directly to the return order for which the notification was received, and the way we handled it. So Power Automate has the capability of sending out the parameters to Power App. So what we are doing is we are retrieving the uniquely identifying key in the Power Automate, and we are sending it to Power App. And then on the on start event, we are checking if there is a value in the parameter. We are navigating the user directly to the screen and applying the filter on that particular screen based upon the parameter which it has received. So that is how our due date alerts and due date alerts are working. So let me just quickly show. There is one more alert that we received on our mobile that was for the return orders which have passed the due date. So there you go. So that's the alert which we have received for the return order which has passed the due date. Now I'm going to show that it would have sent an email to my manager stating that the return order has passed the due date. So that's me and that's my manager. Now I'm going to show another event which is for when the return order gets assigned to a particular field technician. So there is an issue with change based alert batch in my VM. So in order to show that notification, I'm going to be rerunning the historical event. Just a minute. Sorry. So let me just rerun this particular event. Yep. So it has arrived, as you can see, that there has been a return order assigned on my name. I'm going to click on that. Close this down. Let me just resend it one more. Um, It wasn't so slow before the session. Yep. So there you go. The notification has arrived. I can click on that and it's going to directly take me to that particular order. So that is how our tap notifications work for this return order module. So the next feature that I would like to showcase today, it's the part ordering feature that we have introduced in our app. So as I told initially, like whenever field technicians are running short of a part in their van, they can come down and order the part directly from this particular app here. Property selection is nothing but the selection of the customer, and all these customers are derived from finance and operation directly. So they can either select the customer coming from finance and operation, or they can enter the customer details manually. My system is really slow, so pardon me for that. Come on. What? All right, let me try to add the part manually. All right, so on this screen, we can enter the property name. Then we can specify the address, city, contact name, and then we can specify the phone number. And then when you're going to say OK, it's going to take us to the next screen where we have all the questionnaires defined for the field technicians. They have to fill out all the questionnaires before this save button gets enabled. So let me just fill that out. So once we fill out all the questionnaire on this particular screen, it's gonna enable this save button at the top. And when we're gonna click on that, it is gonna take us to the next screen where we can add all the parts that we need for a van. So we need to click on this add button. Now this we definitely need. Let me just close this app and reopen it again. Not sure if screen sharing is making it slow. Guys, let me just stop my screen sharing and let me see if it loads quickly after that. Just a moment. So long. Definitely not my day today, I think. It's taking hell lot of time to load the screen. On. Let me just see.
Can it be because of screen mirroring from mobile?
If you want, you can move ahead with the next section, Nitesh. We can come back to this if the app loads.
Just a moment. Let me just try it one more time. Just if in case the item loads, we're gonna be all good. Just a moment. It's a kind of a shopping cart experience that we have developed here so that they can add multiple parts. Just a moment. Just let me try it one more time. All right, let me just remove the screen mirroring and check it. That makes it better.
think your screen is not shared, Nitesh.
Yeah, just a minute, Achit. I'm sharing it again. Yeah, it is taking a long time. I don't know why. All right, I'll leave it to load. Until then, I'll go move on to my next section to discuss the key challenges that I came across during the development of this app. So one of the challenge was to navigate the user uh, directly to the return order, which I've already explained, like how I did it. The second one was like we do not want the notifications to be sent to all the users. We just want the notifications to go to the field service technicians. So for that, we had an AD group defined, and we are checking in the flow if the user belongs to that particular AD group, then only send out the notifications, and do not send the notifications. So that is how we overcame that one of those requirements. Then tapping on the, okay, so I'm going to quickly explain like how I achieved this. I think I've already explained this, tapping on the notification, how it's going to navigate us directly to the return order. Checking empty value. So we need to make sure that whenever we are checking the empty values in the flow, we have our condition defined on the left hand side. And then on the right hand side, we need to make sure that whether it's a true or a false condition, something similar to this. So that's one of the things that I worked out during the journey of this. And then, so yeah, the design part for the part requests was a bit challenging because we have to work out how the design of the screen should look like whenever the user is ordering the parts. And one of the things that we need to keep in mind when we are doing the development, like whenever we want to have a development wherein we need to attach the image. So attaching the image is a bit different from capturing the image. Like in the previous session, I showed like how we can capture the image via mobile phone and we can send it to the finance and operations. So the way upload works is a bit different. For upload, we need to make sure that we make use of this decode data URI function. I mean, decode data URI to binary function rather than using this, because this was not converting the JSON format of the image to the desired format. So which is why we need to make use of this to convert the upload image to the desired format. So those were the key findings, and my screen has not yet loaded. Something went wrong. If finance and operations. Trust me, guys, I ran it before the session and I don't know why this is taking so long to load now.
No problem. It happens with us also.
Yeah, it always happens when there is a demo. So, all right. So I'm going to quickly show the outcome of the part selection. So it sends out the email. Yep. So it sends out the email like this with all the questionnaire that we filled out in the app. It's going to send out in the email like this. And it's going to also upload the attachment in the email. So apart from that, one of the challenging thing was like generating the lines part in the Power Automate at runtime. So what I did in the loop, I am generating the HTML at runtime for all the parts which are entered in the app. So as you can see that this particular part here, it gets dynamically filled out. Yeah. Still loading. I don't know what has went wrong here. Guys, if you have any question, you can ask me. Till then, I'll see if I can get this loaded somehow.
Yeah, there were some questions asked in the chat window, which Sunil has already answered. Thanks for that, Sunil. Really appreciate your presence.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Just a moment, guys. Give me 2 more minutes. Let me see if this loads.
Nitish, will you be also showing us something in the Power Automate, how you configure those things?
Yep, I can show that. All right. So we have created a solution for all our finance and operation alerts here. So let me just quickly discuss the change-based alert. So for the change-based alert, we have we have uh, finance and operation connector, and we are retrieving the alert here using the finance and operation connector, and then we are parsing the JSON which is retrieved from finance and operation. And then we are also checking whether the whether the user is part of the field technician group or not. So when we are doing this, we need to pick up the unique identifier for the Azure Active Directory group from the Azure, and then we need to check whether this particular user belongs to that group or not. And if that returns true, then we need to send out the notification to the desired field technician. So this is how our due date alert looks like. No internet. Hello, guys, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
Nitish, we can hear you.
all right. I think my internet is playing around. All right. So this is how our due date alert looks like. It is similar to what we have in the change-based alert. Like we have a finance and operation connector here to retrieve the due date alert. And then we just retrieve the JSON, and then we initialize some variables. Like we need to check whether there is a, so field technicians fill out the bill of lading number onto the return order. And we need to make sure that if they have filled that out, we should not send them the notification. So in here, I am making a call again to finance and operations. So what happens is whenever the business event gets triggered, it provides you with the unique key for that particular table. But we need additional fields from the return order. So which is why we are again making a call to finance and operation to, to retrieve all the required fields based upon that unique key, like the sales responsible field and the other desired fields that we need later on for sending the messages. So we make a call again to finance and operation to retrieve all the required data. And then we check the AD group similar to what we are doing in the change-based alert. And then we check the deadline condition. So if it is less, if the deadline on the return order is less than UTC now, then we are sending out the email to the managers. That is our escalation path. And if at all not, like it's in the future, then we just send out the normal email and the notification to the field technician. So that is how it works. Apart from that, I'm going to quickly show you the part request flow that I have configured. All right. All right. So the way I have developed this particular feature is like it is developed on top of collections. So we have the part order header and we have a part order list. Part order header is the form where we are collecting all the header information. Let me just quickly show that. So that's our part request header where we specify all the information. Let me just pop it in something. So this is developed on top of collections. So we have one collection defined for the header, another defined for the lines. Check your internet. Yeah, I think there is something wrong with the connection. Hold on, guys. Just a moment. Let me try this. If at all I can do from here. Yeah, something wrong, I think. Not loading. Or all right, guys. I'm really sorry about that. Shame it's not loading. So we have two collections defined. One is for the header, another one is for the lines. So let me just pop it. When the screen loads, you need to enter all the information. All right, so yeah, finally, at least something is working. So it has
Yay.
loaded all the paths. Yeah. Right. So this is the screen where we are putting on all the items which are coming directly from the finance and operations. So user can perform a search for a particular item based upon the item name or the item number. So let's say if I want to select something, it says Helix. So it's gonna apply the filter onto the list based upon the item name or the item number, and it's gonna provide us with all the items matching that particular string, and then we can select that. Then on the next screen, it's gonna pop in all the information for that particular item. Field technicians do wanted to have the ability to edit the part number or the part description, and then they can specify the quantity. And when they're gonna click OK, it's gonna put that particular item in your list. Similarly, you can add additional items. So now we have added two items in our part request. Once we are happy with our list, we can click on this tick over here. And then it's going to take us to the next screen where we can attach the image and or specify the special instructions. So let me just pick up some image and specify the instructions. And then we can click on send request. And then it's going to tell us whether it has successfully sent out the email or not. So here it clearly says that it has sent out the email. Let's verify the email. So there you go. So that is how it's going to come through. As you can see that this particular string I am creating at the runtime. This is the HTML in the email. I am developing this particular HTML in the Power Automate at runtime based upon the number of items user is adding onto the part request. All right, let me see if my customer is all good now. There you go. Finally. So I'm loading down all the customers from finance and operations. So user can select any of the customer. Property selection is nothing but a selection of the customer coming from finance and operations. So even they can perform a search based upon the name or based upon the customer account, and then they can select that particular customer. And when they're going to select that, it's going to pop in all the information coming from the customer master from finance and operation, and then contact name and contact phone number that's not coming from finance and operations. So we provided them the ability to specify it manually. And we're going to click OK. And then it's going to take us to the next screen. Here we are just showing the property name because there were too many fields that were supposed to be there on the screen. So we thought that we should show them some limited fields which they need to specify and not showing the others which we are deriving from the customer master. So now we are here. Let me just put 2. Apart from that, like if they specify that game or bank is down, in this particular case, it's going to send email to my manager as well. So let me just not do that. Add the part numbers. Then click on OK. Then send request. So this is kind of a shopping cart experience that we have developed for the field technicians. What I feel is like if at all we wanted to have the ability for the creation of the sales orders or the purchase orders via Power App, I think like this is the way going further. We can do that as well. So the email has arrived and that is how it looks along with the attachment. Yeah. Finally, any questions around this, guys?
Yes, Nitesh, we have a couple of questions. We tried to answer a few, but we'll pick your brains on them.
Oh,
First
sure.
question was around how did you identify the manager?
So for identifying a manager, there is already a function in the Power Automate, which is gonna return you the manager. And also in Power Apps, you have an API. Let me just tell you that. There is a function which returns us the manager for the logged in Power App user. And in the Power Automate, there is a connector which basically returns us the manager of the field technician. Just bear with me for a moment. In case of hard request, I'm getting it from there. Sorry, just a moment. In case of alerts, all right. All right. So hold on, it's here.
Yeah, we can see Office
Yep,
365.
Office 365. Yeah,
Manager.
yeah. So that's the function which basically provides us with the details of the manager. And in Power Automate, there is a connector which basically provides us the manager details. Just a moment. Let me change this alerts. Leaders alert. Yep. So that's the connector, Azure AD Group. So when you're going to type Azure, it's going to give you different type of functions. So it's going to allow you to query the Azure Active Directory.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you, Nitesh. Really appreciate you showing it at that level. Second question was from Prudvi, which I did not get quite
Mm.
sure. So Prudvi, you can feel free to unmute yourself. The question was, how are you selecting the data using the unique key in the connector?
Uh, so uh, so you have in case of return orders, it is the sales order ID, which basically helps us in uniquely identifying the record in the sales table. So I retrieve that. So we are on the correct flow. So what happens is whenever there is a business event happening in finance and operation, and you are sending it externally, it provides you with a JSON message containing the primary key for that particular table. So in case of return orders, it was the sales order ID, which helps us in uniquely identifying the records. So using that, we made one more call back to finance and operation to retrieve all other required fields. Like if you see here, this is my first event where I'm retrieving the event from finance and operation. Here, I'm calling finance and operation back again to retrieve all the required fields which I need to send further. So if you see here, I am selecting out all other required fields which I need based upon the sales order ID. I'll show
Yeah.
you.
So in the filter query option, you have given the key value that you
Yes,
got from
yes,
JSON.
yep,
Okay.
yep, right.
All right. Next question was from Shatrughan. It is how the items you pick from FNO to Power
Darshit,
App.
before you go before you go with that, just a minute. So here you can see that it's a key value 1. So it in the JSON message, it's going to provide you the key values. So it is generic framework, right? So if at all you have a primary key defined on the table, key value 1 is going to provide you with that, and that you can specify in your query. Like if you see here, I've specified return order number with the key value 1, and then it's going to return you the entire buffer or whatever you select in the select query. So
Maybe
that
you
is
can
how
check
this works.
the execution history and there you can see some
Oh
JSON.
yes, sure. Yeah, I can show you that. Yeah. So now you see, so the key value 1, that's your return order number, and which is leveraged in the query here to retrieve the information from finance and operation. Yep.
Perfect.
I hope that
Thanks
explains.
for that, Nitesh. So the next question is how the items you pick from FNO to Power App, and when you add item in the Power App or edit, then do they sync automatically to FNO? Shatrughan,
So
feel free to unmute yourself if you want to add something to it. Yeah. Mhm. Go ahead, Nitesh. Yeah.
yeah. So the thing is, if we talk about the part request feature, here we are just showing them all the items that you have in FinOps, and that we have shown via data entity. That eco res release product data entity, we are leveraging that, and using that we are showing them all the items in the list. we are not making any changes to the item master, or we are not doing any sort of posting or anything. It is just like showing them the information, like these are the part numbers that we have in finance and operation. You tell me which one you want and specify the quantity. And then it goes to the relevant department, and then they take whatever necessary operations which are required, and then they provide them with the relevant parts.
Okay, how you pick the items from by creating connector?
Yeah, so this is a virtual entity that we have leveraged here. So virtual entities, like all the entities that you have in your finance and operation, which are marked is public as true, they become available as virtual entities in CE, and that you
Yeah.
can leverage in your app. So currently what you are seeing here is coming out of virtual entity.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, Nitish.
no
So
problem.
Nitesh, you are pulling this data from Dataverse into your Canvas app.
Data words. Yes, right.
Perfect. There is a question from Vinay.
Mhm.
How can we configure to execute that Power Automate for multiple legal entity? Observe currently configured for a specific legal entity.
So the thing is, whenever we are creating an alert, I mean, like whenever you are activating a particular flow, I'll show you just a moment. So if you're not specifying a legal entity, when you are activating a flow with respect to a particular business event, it assumes that it's a cross company. It's a cross company operation. I'll show you. All right. Let me just go down to the system administration. So that's our business event catalog, where all the business events that you have out of the box get listed here. And I hope you guys know, like, we can also have our custom events if at all we need. So that is our event over there. So let me select that. Yeah. So whenever we activate this, it provides us with a drop down for the legal entity. Yep. So if you're not specifying any legal entity over here, it would assume that it's a cross company operation, and then you can specify your endpoint, like whatever is your endpoint. And just bear in mind, like whenever you have a flow configured to read the data from finance and operation, it is going to get listed down here. And if you have your flow turned off, it won't come down in the drop down here. So these are the two things. Just keep it in mind. And also, when you are running your queries from Power Automate, you need to make sure that it's a cross company thing, so that you are at least able to retrieve the buffer. So I'm going to show you quickly what I mean by that. So there is an option which says cross company true whenever you are running a query in finance and operation. So you need to make sure that that's true, so that it knows that it has a cross company operation, and then it's going to go and fetch the data from finance and operation based upon this. I hope that answers the question. And currently, we have configured it only for a single legal entity, not across all other legal entities.
Perfect. That answers. We have got confirmation from Vinay. Thanks a lot, Nitesh, for elaborating it.
No problem, guys. And really apologies. I was not sure that my internet is going to dodge me like that.
Problem it. You did not give up on it, and you showed up. So, yeah, I think one thing coming out of it is that we need better environments for developers. Huh?
Yeah, true. You're right, Rachel.
But really appreciate that depth which you have shown in the demo. I don't see any other questions. If someone wants to unmute themselves and give any feedback or say something about it, feel free to do that. But thanks a lot, Nitesh. It was really a good session and
Thank
very
you, Rachit. And
appreciate.
apologies, guys, really. I wasn't sure that my internet is going to go bad like that.
No stress, mate.
Just a final from my side would also be that the foundation was very strong of the session. It's just something which are not in our hand, to don't worry about it. But the whole, story that you built up around it, it was quite, fascinating, and I'm pretty sure very helpful for the larger audience. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Vishal.
Thank you. There is one quick question from Vinay. Is there a way we can trigger a Power Automate from FNO apart from business events? So apart from business events, how can we trigger Power Automate from FNO? Maybe we can do customizations. Nitesh, do you want?
Yeah. We can do a customization. Like it's all the JSON which is coming out of finance and operations. So I don't see that. I don't see any limitation. Like we have a data entities as well. And using Power Automate, we can call out the data entities to retrieve the information.
Yeah, I
So
think
what
it
will
depends
be
on.
the scenario where you would not want to use business events to trigger Power Automate and something else? Because we want to avoid any customization as much as possible. So today we have business events, but in about a couple of months, we will also have data events, which is entity-based CUD events. Right, so there will be both of these events that can be used to trigger Power Automate. If there is another scenario somewhere that we should discuss, we'll be happy to learn that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
Vinay,
there
you
should
have.
be no other reason to customize to send triggers out. It has to be business events or data events.
Yeah, I agree because it's an event-based application, Power Automate. So Vinay, do you have anything handy, or if you want, send us an email with your business scenario. We'll be happy to get feedback from Sunil and give it to you.
Okay, so sorry, it's, there was some background noise when I was on mute. Now it's okay. Just wanted to check, like, see, there could be a couple of scenarios, like, wherein you try to perform some of the operations via badge job on your FinOps application, and you want them to be triggering some Power Automate where the data lies on the Dataverse, for which you have to perform some actions and then trigger out some actions from there on, which need to be shared to the external applications. Okay, so like, yeah, business event is one of the case for all the internal activities that happening. Let's say if you want to customize something out of the box, apart from out of the box. So is there a way we could trigger the Power Automates from the FinOps apart from business events?
So business events is extensible, right? I mean, the framework that has to be used is business events or data events once data events is available. So in your example, if there is a requirement to send an event out from a custom logic, then you can implement a custom business event, and then the rest of the flow is going to be the same that we saw today.
Okay, so I hope there is no limitation of the data that we could send it from a business event, right?
I mean, theoretically, the only limitation will be the message size that the recipient is going to impose. Like, for example, standard tier service bus has a 64 KB message size, whereas a premium tier service bus has 1 MB. So technically, you can pack that much of data in the payload, but being an event, the guideline is to keep the event as lightweight as possible and not try to pack as much data as you can, because then you may run into scalability issues and performance issues. And the point being, events are meant to be very lightweight and nimble anyways. So we just have to follow those standard practices.
Okay.
And to add, Vinay, I think batch processes are also now enabled to trigger business events now. So if you follow some recent updates I think in the recent versions, that capability has been enabled in the product. So when a batch process ends, it will fire a business event. So if you have a scenario where you want to trigger Power Automate when a batch process ends, that should be available out of the box now.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, I think we have some really good Q&A today, and Nitesh, very good demo, and really appreciate everyone taking out time on their weekend and joining this call. Especially big thanks to Sunil and Shri joining us from Seattle for this show. Really appreciate, guys. Any final remarks? Otherwise, we are happy to close.
No, that was a great session. Thank you, Nitesh and everyone. We'll try
Thank
to
you,
join.
Sunil.
Yeah, we'll try to join as many as we can in all the future sessions, but keep it going.
Thank you, Sunil. All right, then. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the
All
rest
right,
of the
thanks.
weekend and
Bye.
keep
Thank you,
working.
guys.
Thanks, Nitish. Thanks for the session. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.